Why, hello, everybody. This is Cameron Rhodes with the Guided Trip Fly Fishing Podcast. Been away for a while. Been fishing, working hard. Just trying to get as much of it in as I can. So I apologize for not posting anything for a while. It's tough. I mean, this isn't my day job. Doing podcasts all day, so try and do them as much as I can. And hopefully, followers are still listening and out there and want to hear what I got to say. Thanks for those of you who are still listening, who are around. I did a podcast this time, kind of from the heart a little bit, and just kind of spoke from the heart and how I felt about some certain things, and a cool experience I had on the river, and something most people don't experience very often or ever at all. And I had to share it with everybody. So it's not that educational. I talk about my experience and my feelings a little bit about the river, and what it does to me and how it helps me, and just to look up every now and then, be a little observant. I want to thank our sponsors, Upslope Brewery. They kill it. If you haven't heard of their 1% for Rivers program, check it out. With every sale of craft lager, Upslope craft lager in a can, 1% of that goes to Local Trout Unlimited for conservation, which is awesome. It's cool that they do that, bringing, beer and rivers together and people together and trying to protect what we love, and that's what we're all about. Also want to thank Man Can Beer. If you haven't seen a Man Can yet, it's an awesome little keg-style growler made out of stainless steel. Keeps your beer fresh. You can also put anything in there. There's people who put, brew their own kombucha in there. There's people... I put water in it on the boat, and fill up water bottles. Kick plastic campaign a little bit. Instead of buying plastic water bottles, I can pop water into one of these 128 Man Cans and pour it right into people's water bottles, and that way, we're not burning up plastic. So check out Man Can, mancan.beer. They actually have a GoFundMe going on right now. They've kind of hit some hard times with some legal battles. So check them out, help them out if you can. If not, just support them any way you can. But they got some stuff going on that, we need to help out. So check out their GoFundMe if you go to their page, mancan.beer. You can find me on Instagram, Cameron.Rhodes. You can also find us at The Guided Trip. We're doing our own Instagram now, trying to at least. I'm not very tech savvy, and I get on Instagram, but I just don't take very many pictures. I don't post very much. I don't know when or how to post, so bear with us there. I don't post a lot of stuff all the time, but we got it going. Fishing here in the Gunnison Valley has been absolutely incredible lately. If you haven't been here, you're missing out. If you have, good for you. It's been excellent. As of right now, for a little river report, I was just out the other day, yesterday, and fishing was great. Dry dropper action, stone flies, pheasant tails, a lot of caddis on the water, a lot of PMDs. Seen some drakes here and there. I haven't seen the big flurry of them yet, but a lot of green drakes, happening. They're definitely eating the nymphs. Dry dropper is definitely the way to go. I think the river's flowing maybe close to 600 or 6. Maybe I checked the other day, 640. But so it's dropping pretty quick, and come July, August, it's going to be tough fishing. It's going to be hot around here. River's already warming up a little bit too much. But if you are here, fish it hard. Go fish as much as you can. Actually, check us out, Crested Butte Angler. That's who I guide for. CrestedButteAngler.com. You can book through them if you want to do a fishing trip with us. You can also email me, theguidedtrip@gmail.com. Just like it's spelled, theguidedtrip@gmail.com. Message me on Instagram, whatever you need to do. But yeah, if you want to go fishing with us, we've had some excellent days float fishing recently. Weather's been holding up for us. We definitely need that rain. Pray for rain. Do your rain dance. Do whatever you got to do. We need the rain. But tons of bugs on the water. Even the other afternoon, about 2 o'clock, lots of caddis out. Didn't see any drakes that day, but tons of caddis. Fish were eating on top, and they're eating the dry dropper like crazy. A lot of big fish, and they're sitting in, shallow, skinny water. And they are munching hard. So get down here, come book a trip with us, come fish with us. Like I said, you can email me, message me on Instagram. If you have any questions. Like I said, I tell you a little bit of a story that I had on the river, an experience that I shared on the river. So listen to the podcast. Let me know what you think. Shoot me an email or Instagram. Tell us your story, cool experience you've had on the river, anything that's kind of, moved you in certain ways. But thanks for everybody for listening and being around. It's Cameron Rhodes, The Guided Trip. All right. So I'm going to kind of go on a little bit of a rant here. But I feel like it needs to be talked about a little bit. And this rant kind of started, I got the idea for it today, actually. I was on the river, and I had an experience on the river that you don't really get to experience unless you are on the river or you are outside or in the mountains or, just in nature, and focusing on what's going on. And, just being aware of what's around you. And a lot of people have different definitions for this. I tell my girlfriend all the time, that the church that I go to is the river. I go there to wash everything away. And it's very spiritual to be out there, not just the river, but like I said, outside, within nature, and kind of immerse yourself in that. And it is very spiritual for me. And so I go out there often just to clear my head at times, and just I'll bring a rod, but I might fish for 5-10 minutes and then just sit and watch what's going on. I'll watch birds, I'll watch the bugs, I'll watch anything that's happening. Occasionally you get to see some deer out there, or, coyotes or foxes or whatever running around. And it's cool just to observe at times and not just to be so caught up in the fishing. And, I'll kind of get to my story here in just a minute, but like I was saying, I like to use the river to clear my head. And it soothes me a little bit. There's a great quote out there by John Garak. It says, "The solution to any problem, work, love, money, whatever, is to go fishing. And the worse the problem, the longer the fishing trip should be." And that's true. I mean, we use these trips, or we go out fishing for certain reasons. Not all of us are out there just to fish at all times. And I enjoy that. I like to go out there and use the river to help soothe and cleanse. Like I said, it's my church. The river, outside, in the mountains, hunting, whatever it may be, it's my church. And you get to experience some pretty amazing shit out there if you focus. And if you look up from the water every now and then. And I get a lot of, on the boat, my favorite quote as well, clients say it all the time. "Oh man, I've just been fishing so hard, I forget to look up every now and then and see what's going on around me." And there's some pretty cool stuff floating down the river. Like I said, tons of wildlife and tons of just awesome scenery, and you get to see the mountains, and occasionally we get to see those snow-capped mountains, or if you're floating here in Gunnison through town, the Palisade Rocks are pretty awesome. And every time I float down the river, I definitely take some time and look up and see what's going on and focus what's going on around me. So to get to my story here, I was out fishing today. One of my favorite sections of river on the Gunnison. I'm not going to tell you where, but if you know me, you know where it is. And I go out there quite a bit, and I know that section of river a lot. I know it from a boat. I know it from a walking standpoint. I duck hunt out there a lot too, and I don't want to give too much away, but I've walked in and out of there in the dark multiple times. I know every little stone. I know every little pothole, walking on the trail, everything. And I go out there when I need to. And so today I needed a little break and decided I had the day off today. Decided I was going to go out there and get a little fishing in. And in my head, it's kind of like, oh, hopefully I'll get to see some dry flies and, just fish dries for the day and just work on that a little bit and, give it a go. And I get out there and fishing's excellent. I'm just throwing a dry dropper, and fishing's pretty good. And I'm walking to a hole that there's a big fish in. I know there's a big fish, and I've been kind of hunting them for a little bit. And I mean, there's fish rising everywhere, and it's windy as hell down there though, so I couldn't do much with that, in terms of throwing a dry fly. I could have, but the little dry dropper was working great and crushing it. So I was pretty pleased with the day, and I was walking downstream, and I need to get back across the river to try and hit this little section that holds a big fish, and I've been kind of gunning for a while. And I come around the corner, and there's two guys fishing just barely downstream of this hole. And, I went, all right, I'll let them have it. If they want to walk up, they can have it. I'll walk the bank and skirt around them and try not to spook any fish close to them or whatever. And they're on the opposite bank as me, so I mean, I'm walking downstream, and they're on my right side. And so I'm kind of skirting the bank, and I get into the trees a little bit, just the cottonwoods, and I can still barely see these two. And there's a big downed cottonwood in here that I'm just kind of, crawling around and trying to get over it and find a good path. And man, out of nowhere, this golden eagle just swoops down out of the tree. I mean, it felt like it was within a couple feet of me. And I kind of duck and look up, and I watch it and look back as it's flying away. And I mean, 7-foot wingspan, no doubt. I mean, it was a big bird. Looked like a freaking pterodactyl flying over you almost. It spooked me a little bit. I was, whoa, what the hell is going on here? And I just kind of stood there for a minute and watched this bird fly away. And then I heard a bald eagle. I don't know if you guys have ever heard one talk. It's not that typical hawk sound, everyone thinks it is, where it almost sounds like a little bit of a whistle where it's, and it's kind of a screech. I can't mimic it. I could try, but it's not going to sound right. But look it up sometime. It's a very interesting sound, but I've heard this bald eagle before, and it's very talkative. It's in the area a lot. I see it out, duck hunting. I see it fishing quite a bit. It seems to kind of, stick to the same area. And in my head, I'm sitting there kind of like, oh, this is my buddy. I see him all the time, and he knows me. And I'm not sure what the dynamic or what was going on between the two eagles there. But I just stood there, kind of watching this whole thing go down, and the golden eagle's gone. I never saw him again, but the bald eagle just comes and, flies right through the trees. I mean, right over top of me, a little bit smaller than that golden, but just, chatting at me, and kind of screeching at me a little bit. And I look over at these guys, fishing on the bank, and they're not really paying attention, and they look back over at me, and I'm just staring up at the sky watching this eagle, and he's just doing laps around me. And I mean, coming really close. You don't get many encounters like that. And he just kept kind of circling, and they started watching a little bit, and I looked back at one of the guys, and I looked at him, and I go, that was pretty wild. You don't see that every day, and he goes, yeah, what the hell was that about? What's going on there? And then he was back to fishing. And at that point, I just stood there for a while. And, I mean, this eagle just kept going back and forth, just doing circles, just laps around me. And like I said, coming very close. And I'm not sure. I kind of got the impression he wasn't too happy with me. Kind of, hey, I know you, but you got to get the hell out of here. This is my spot. I just pushed that golden out of here, and this is where I want to be. And so he flew over one last time and kind of screeched at me a little bit, and I looked up and, went, yep, I'll walk off. And I walked off and, got to another point of the bank, and here's the other guy just below. And, he goes, hey, how's it going? And, what's going on? And I go, oh, just watching the eagles, and I mean, he thought that was pretty cool, but I don't know if I had a different mindset about it, or maybe I just look at those things a little bit differently, or maybe I have a more emotional connection to this piece of the river, and I'm out there quite a bit, but they weren't too impressed, with what was going on. And it in my mind, it was one of the coolest things I've experienced out there. Just kind of watching this. I mean, I can't explain it in words. I tried to get a little bit of a video of it, and it just couldn't do it justice. I have a shitty Android phone, so didn't do it much justice. But after that, it was, it's kind of like, fishing. I'm done with fishing today. I mean, obviously I fished a little bit more, of course, but I didn't need to. And there's those need tos, and then there's the want tos, where you want to go fishing or you need to go fishing. And some people understand that, some people don't. But I didn't really have the need to go, to fish anymore. I was more, I felt good. It was an interesting experience. I don't know how else to explain it. But what I'm kind of getting at here is, I said it a little bit, I touched on it at the beginning, but, every now and then you got to look up, and you got to see what's going on around you, and understand that, there's a lot more to it than just going out there and fishing a little bit and catching some fish. There's a lot more to it. And like I said, it's a very spiritual experience for me. And, it never really was like that. When I was young, growing up, it was more of, I want to catch all the fish. How do I catch them all? What do we use? Oh, I want to go find the biggest fish. What? Now it's kind of, obviously everybody wants to catch a big fish and a lot of fish, but it's more about the experience for me now. And that's a pretty cool feeling. If you can have that feeling, I feel like you're doing something right. And if you can enjoy just being out there, and a lot of people, say that, oh, it's just so nice being out here, I get a lot of clients who say that. You're like, oh man, it's so nice being out here. And then, an hour later when they're not catching fish, well, why aren't we catching fish? I don't understand what's going on. It's like, oh, I thought you just enjoyed being out here. I didn't think it was about the fishing anymore. No. It's the way it goes. For most people, it's about the fishing. And it's about catching fish, the most fish, the biggest fish. And rarely do you get those people who just enjoy being out there, who enjoy, being in the water or being on a boat, floating down the river and seeing all the scenery and seeing the wildlife and, kind of getting some educational value out of it as well, as we're teaching certain things and, and teaching people how to be stewards and how to protect what we have here and how to conserve it. And I think a lot of people don't understand. I'm going to dip into another quick little story here, but client the other day, I've taken him a couple times now, and shows up and he's got his phone. He's got a little phone case, waterproof phone case for it, which is good because usually I tell him, hey, I can put your phones away in a dry bag or wherever they need to go. But you want to keep his on him, which is fine. He's got his own case, yeah, everybody needs their phone on him, in case of emergency, but he turned his off. And about 30 minutes into the trip, he needed to pull over. Like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll pull over. Turns his phone back on. He goes, I'm going through phone withdrawals. I need to check my emails and I need to, see what's going on in the world. And I could not believe what was going on. I was absolutely blown away that here this guy is, paid hundreds of dollars for me to take him down the river and, for the experience and to catch fish and, to learn. And he's going through phone withdrawals. He's freaking out because his phone's off and he needs to know what's going on in the world. And, I can't tell the guy what to do, but in my head, it's like, man, this is what's going on in the world right now. You're on a boat fishing down a beautiful river. Doesn't get much better than this. Why do you need to check that? What's so important out there that you can't find right here that this can't fix? Like I said earlier, I mean, going out to the river fishing, it'll solve your problems if you let it. And it'll help you. It'll at least help you mentally, a little emotionally. It's not going to quite solve your problem. Maybe you're broke as hell and you're like, oh man, I'm going to go to the river and find some money. That's not going to happen. Well, it can, but there's not a huge possibility. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, what I was seeing. And once he broke his phone out, he was on it all day. Never got off. Every time we'd stop, every time we'd pull over, he was on his phone. And he'd just lay the rod down in the boat, let his flies drag, and he'd just grab his phone and just start staring at it. I don't know what he was doing back there. Maybe he's, who knows? Maybe he's got tons of business he's got to take care of. But don't go on a fly fishing trip if you got to take care of business that day. If you got work, if you got other stuff going on. It's a little bit disrespectful for me, and the way I look at it. I'm spending my time on you. I'm not on my phone. I'm spending my time on you guys and teaching and, floating you down the river. Something to think about. Go out there. Support your public lands. Support wildlife. Support as much as you possibly can. Conserve. Pick up trash. Along the way. Do whatever you got to do. But know that these places and these areas are here for a reason. And we got to learn to look at them differently. And if we don't take care of them, if we don't protect these fisheries, if we don't protect our public lands, our national forests, our our rivers, all of it, it's not going to be here for much longer. One of the coolest, all right, sorry, here's another little rant, but one of the coolest, I think, guide trips I ever did with a young man I think he was probably maybe 10 or so. We're walking a section of a creek here in Gunnison County, and he was an interesting kid. Nice young kid, awesome. His dad taught him well. He had tons of manners, yes sir, no sir. He followed directions very well. And he was able to cast and fish and, do those things that need to be done, and had the patience. And, we were going throughout the trip, and every time I'd see some trash or anything along the creek bank, I'd pick it up and just throw it in my net. And I kind of did that throughout the day. And the kid was watching me do this, and I'd find all kinds of stuff, beer cans, bottles, just pieces of paper. I found some, buckets of worms, some little styrofoam cups of worms, stuff like that. And, the interesting part about the kid was he was a severe diabetic. And so I was, his dad kind of left me alone with him, and I had to keep an eye on him at all times, just to make sure, it wasn't, getting groggy or anything like that. And, we had tons of snacks and everything that, we needed to watch out for. But I'm walking along the creek and, telling him where I want him to go. And I turn back and he's gone. I'm like, oh no. What happened? Where did he go? Did he pass out? Is he, where is he? Where'd this kid go? And he pops out of this bush and he's got this handful of trash. And he walks up to me and he goes, hey, can I put this in your net? I said, of course, definitely. And he just kind of gives me this look and he goes, hold on, let me go grab my rod. And he runs back and grabs his rod and comes back and he's like, all right. Didn't think anything of it. Been watching me do it all day. Never asked why we were doing it. Never asked, what it was for. He just knew that because I was doing it, it was important. And it was important to me. And he could tell it was important to me. And, he's kind of looking up to me and, seeing that we were protecting, what was going on. And it gave me a really cool feeling inside that I was able to, teach this kid something, teach him how to be a steward, and teach him, that we have to protect this stuff and we have to pick up trash. That's who we are. As sportsmen, as outdoorsmen, as fishermen, we have to help and do our part, or else nobody would do it. And, this kid started asking me questions, hey, you said we were fishing public land today, who pays for that public land and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you do. Your dad does. I do. You bought fishing licenses. I buy a fishing license. You spend money here in Colorado. You pay for it. These are your public lands. And you kind of see this glimmer in this kid's eye. And he finally looked at me and, like I said, super nice kid. And he goes, hey, Mr. Cameron. I said, yes, sir. And he goes, is there any way I could keep that fly we were using today? The one that I caught my first fish on? I said, of course you can. He goes, I'd really like to go home and show my friends. And it moved me so much that, this kid was so fascinated by what we did that day. And it was very touching. And it's a cool experience, to be outside and be able to do that and teach somebody something like that. And I know I'm just ranting a little bit and kind of telling you how I feel about certain things, but I needed to get it off my chest a little bit and talk about this stuff. It's a pretty cool feeling. And like I said, just kind of, observe what's going on around you. Check it out. It's a lot bigger than you think. There's a lot more going on than you think. Check out different conservation organizations, around locally. check out Trout Unlimited. Check out the TRCP. That's Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Program. Backcountry hunters and anglers are great. Their motto is keep public lands in public hands. Check out these organizations. They're great. I'm not endorsed by them by any means, but I do endorse them. I am there for them. And I'll do as much as I can to help out. So check them out. Check out some local chapters. Go to a meeting. See what they have to say. It's worth it. And if you like being outside, if you like, fishing, rafting, hunting, kayaking, hiking, biking, any of it, these are the groups that'll fight for you. And these are the groups that are there. This is where you want your money to go to help things like this. So I want to thank you guys for listening to my little rant there for a moment, but I had to share it. It was an interesting day. And like I said, it was a very, very spiritual day. And I got to experience some pretty cool shit. So thank you guys for listening. I'm Cameron Rhodes, and this is The Guided Trip.